Hello, everyone, and welcome to the world's most famous podcast. I'm your hostess, Jacqueline Maddison. Today, we have a very special guest, Geoffrey Toffetti, a visionary entrepreneur and hospitality industry leader. He is the president and CEO of Frontline Performance Group, and he brings a powerful blend of tech innovation and people-first strategy to the global hotel landscape. With a mission to transform frontline teams into revenue-driving forces, Geoffrey has helped brands like Hilton, Marriott, and Hyatt achieve lasting performance gains. In this conversation, we'll explore his leadership journey, the keys to scaling a successful company, and the future of hospitality in a fast-changing world. So let's dive in and welcome Geoffrey to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Geoffrey. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's dive right in. Why don't you tell us what inspired you to get into entrepreneurialism and start your company?
Yeah, I didn't actually start my company that I work for. I've been there 15 years. The founder is semi-retired now, but I have spent my entire career helping build businesses. This is the second one that I really started at the ground with a very small company and built it up to be a much larger company. And I think for me, it's just running a business is a constant set of creative challenges, and learning to overcome them is just very rewarding and stimulating. And every day is different. And, some people pick a career path that's a very specific thing, but I think building businesses is more interesting day to day and kind of stems off boredom because you're constantly having to overcome, and you're an entrepreneur, you're having to deal with things you never thought you would have to do just to make the business run.
That's right. No, I love it. It's the best. And I saw a quote the other day that said the things we build end up building us. And it's so true because it's character building, all the things that we gain as human beings by starting businesses and persevering, etc. So can you share a pivotal moment from your career experience that kind of influenced your career trajectory, that where you were like, okay, this is what I'm doing, or you made a decision?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've given a lot of advice to people over the years that want to achieve. And for me, it wasn't so much one moment. It was sort of a mindset that I'm going to take every opportunity that's presented to me, even if it doesn't sound like something that I could see myself doing. Like for instance, when I was fairly early in my career, I was in operations and there was a need in the company for some analysis to be done. And I had never done any data analysis, but I said, I'll do it, and then I ended up becoming like the de facto analyst for the CEO. Which elevated me, got me into meetings I would have never been in. And it built a whole new skill set for me that, kind of made me even more invaluable. So for me, it's people that have opportunities presented to them that shy away from doing it because they're afraid of it or it's not what they think they should be doing. They often just are missing out on real opportunities for growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So you must be open to opportunities because they are, opportunities for growth. And I've always said that, opportunities that's what they are. They're, success isn't a destination. It's a journey of self-discovery and self-development. So if you're never willing to sort of take that leap of faith into a new venture and a new direction, then as you said, you're missing out on an opportunity for your own personal growth.
Absolutely. In a big way.
Absolutely.
And it happens a lot. I see it happen a lot. People get stuck in their career and they don't know why. And if they really were introspective and look back, they'd probably see a dozen times that they could have turned left or right a little bit and taken on something that they didn't want to do, and it would have propelled them forward.
Right. So tell us more about Frontline Performance Group. What exactly is it that your company does on the world stage?
Great. Yeah, we've been in business 32 years. And in that time, we've always done one thing, which is help frontline teams improve their skills and generate more revenue and improve guest and customer experience. We did that for about 25 years as a consulting and training company. We've worked in a dozen or so industries over that time, always where there's a strong influence of an employee meeting with a guest, either across the counter or on the phone. And we settled into hospitality about 11 years ago. And it's really become the focal point of our business. We currently work with over 2,500 hotels in over 100 countries right now. And we've migrated from being a consulting and training to delivering our services through technology. So we've digitized all of our training. We built an entire performance analytics platform that helps managers lead their teams to success because it has everything that they need in there to inspire the employees, to recognize the employees, to hold the employees accountable, and to provide them the training they need to improve their skill set. So
Excellent.
in hotels, it's at the front desk or it's in restaurants, various places around the property.
Now, is this best for an already established chain of hotels, or can a startup sign up for the program or start working with you and implement it right out the gate to guarantee their success?
Yeah, we hear this a lot. Hotels that are opening or pre-opening, there are the customers that know us best. They bring us in pre-opening now because we can prepare the team better for opening day. There are hoteliers that will meet that are starting a hotel and they feel like, well, I think I could do it by myself first, and then I'll call you. And I'm always like, well, the other 3,000 or almost 3,000 hotels that work with us, they should be the proof in the pudding that
Right.
we are very good at it because we take a people first approach. We focus on the frontline employees, making sure that the culture at the front desk is right for selling and serving, and that the managers, they get developed, there's training for them as well. So it's really building a whole culture, but it can be anything from a 30-room boutique hotel up to a 3,000-room hotel casino. We work with the whole spectrum.
Excellent. I mean, hospitality is all about customer experience, and you can tell when it is polished and sophisticated and professional, and it makes all the difference in the world. That's
Absolutely.
what, you're investing in your repeat business by working with a company like you to streamline your employee culture and how they deal and interact with the clients and
Yes, that's
guests.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And being in Beverly Hills, there's obviously a lot of really nice hotels there. But it is, the hospitality industry is sort of, it was shaken to its roots during COVID. And one of the lasting things that's happened is a lot of the seasoned employees that had worked in hospitality for years left the industry and never came back. So they're having to hire people that didn't come up through the lower chain scales, and they're hiring them right off the street and putting them into these guest-facing positions. And you're correct, especially when you're in a nicer hotel. It doesn't have to be a luxury hotel, but a full-service hotel. You expect some polish, and that kind of got siphoned away. And they're working hard to rebuild it. But that's another role that we play is because you can imagine when you're talking about selling or serving, it's all language and body language and tone of voice and all those kinds of things. So our training helps to elevate the polish of frontline employees as well.
So important. I love it. And you work with some of the biggest names in the business. So tell us about the entrepreneurial experience of securing some of these big name clients for you and how you went about doing it in terms of strategy and effectiveness.
Yeah, so it's actually, I think, an interesting story. I'm going to be careful not to use real names, but when I started with the company, my mandate was to get into another vertical. And I had a background in hospitality when I was much younger. And it just made sense to me that hotels would be the next frontier for us. But we ended up working with a theme park first, which was out of nowhere. I'd never worked with a theme park, never done ticket booth sales, and parking. But we did such a good job that the sponsor there introduced us to an executive at one of the major hotel brands. And so we kicked off a relationship with them, and they sent us to their flagship hotel, thinking actually that we would fail because we were a very small company, and I think we were becoming annoying to the C-suite because we wouldn't go away. And we were being professionally persistent, let me put it that way. And so they gave us the one hotel, and we knocked it out of the park. And The executive then became our biggest champion and rolled us out to the entire managed estate for that brand. And then when you in hotels are interesting because someone owns the hotel and someone else manages it. So every time you get introduced to a hotel, you can meet the owner or the manager, and it starts like a spider web effect. And that is what we did. We call it land and expand. You land one, one becomes five, becomes 30, becomes 60, but it is all predicated on doing a good job. We have a saying in our company that your results and your relationship is your reputation. So our reputation is we do what we say we're going to do, and we're pleasant to work with, and we never hold clients' feet to the fire on stuff. And it's just work. Now, we did also benefit from buying our two competitors, which when you're a fairly small business, making an acquisition can have a big impact.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Acquiring your competitors is a good way to eliminate your competitor.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But
And grow at the same time.
Exactly. So as a real estate broker as well, I had the experience in the past. I always said fortune is in the follow-up. So as you said, your persistence paid off as you, gained the business, and then your performance is what keeps the business.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And, hospitality is a fairly small ecosystem. There's only maybe 3,000 or 4,000 decision makers in the world that really run the whole industry. So once you gain a reputation, it gets easier to get to know another customer, get to know another brand, because the owners, they own all the different brands. So once you know the owners, they can kind of take you around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Network.
Yes.
Yeah.
The network effect.
So how has, as you mentioned, technology or AI played a transforming role in revenue increase and performance improvement?
Yeah, it's when you think about performance, it has to start with data, with information, because you have to know what someone is doing or how they're doing. So we've integrated with dozens of hotel systems to pull the data out and then be able to visualize it in our technology to show people how they're doing and calculate their incentives and set their goals. The platform really does everything that a coach would do with someone when helping to develop their career. And so from that standpoint, it's all integrating with these client systems. But from an AI standpoint, we are bringing AI in the background to advance the analytics, because the thing that AI does really, really well is find patterns. And so when you can start to see patterns in the data, you can start to advise the client about, pricing, for instance, or, what products seem to be most popular with business travelers, things that might not just jump right out at you, but you can start to actually push that information, make it actionable. And we also use AI to translate our videos, that's been a revolution.
Absolutely. Now, well, yeah, because then you can go global and there's no language barrier anymore. But in terms of data analysis, are you analyzing like guest feedback or employee performance or all of the above?
Yeah, it's really about the employees. So you can imagine in transactional environments, there's a lot of transactions going on. So we analyze every transaction and then we aggregate that into the results. So, it sounds like common sense, but for instance, in a restaurant, two servers working the same shift, the manager cannot easily tell who's selling more. It's not something that's readily available to them. So the kind of things we analyze is to show the manager, okay, you have one server who's doing well, and this is why, and you have another server that's not doing as well, and this is why. And then they can go and address that. They can address it very specifically and in near real time. So you're not waiting to the end of the month you're like the end of the shift. You could go up to them and say, hey, I noticed you were struggling with, wine sales, whatever it is. So it's that kind of analysis in near real time that allows a manager to actually address a deficiency in their operation in a way that just, it doesn't sound complicated, but it just doesn't exist, because the technology companies that build, say, for instance, a point of sale system, they're not in the business of improving human performance. So They're not thinking the way that we think about it.
I love it. Oh, it's incredible. So the development of this software is what has changed the effectiveness of what you do within your company. So what technological trends do you foresee in the future shaping hospitality?
AI is definitely here to stay, and I think it's
Yeah.
going to transform just about everything, including our business in some ways.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of focus on getting guests to go directly to their room using an app or whatever. And
Right.
we haven't seen it take hold actually, because the only people that do that are the ones who check into hotels all the time, like your quote unquote road warriors. They're the ones that are using it. So we don't think that that trend is going to be very impactful. But I think from our standpoint, it's automation in ways that couldn't be done before using AI. There's something called agentic AI, which is where your AI is an agent for something. It can actually perform a digital job. So I think we're going to see a lot of interactive AI as a front desk agent could be coming in the future, because they can be on a screen. It can look like you or I right now. It can talk like you or I right now, and it can operate the PMS system. So I think what we're going to see is robotics, or avatar robotics and AI probably will transform the guest experience in the coming decade.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I can definitely visualize that. So, how do you, though, balance the technological innovation with personalized guest experiences? Because, yes, I know from your perspective, it's about, the company, the franchise creating the guest experience before the guest. How do you balance that?
Yeah, so we get this question a lot. We're fairly unique in that we're using technology to help people do their job better, not replace them. So for us, the technology is enabling the front desk agent or the server in a restaurant to learn and to focus on what works and what doesn't work, and what's working, and how to increase their own income. And in all of our training, we call it service-based sales, because you're not pushing things on your guest. You're recommending to them things that will improve their experience. You don't recommend things that don't pertain. Like you wouldn't recommend a two-bedroom suite to a single business traveler. That just doesn't make any sense. But you might recommend the executive lounge. So when you make the right recommendations and people take you up on them, yes, they're spending more money, but they're improving their experience. And that's why our service levels and our programs go up at the same rate that the revenue goes up, because you're using real service to engage and form a trusting relationship with your customer, and present to them things that will actually improve their experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of the philosophy in the real estate business, ABC, always be closing. And this is how you drive increased revenues. It is to cultivate that mindset amongst your employees so they understand the objective.
That's right.
Without sacrificing, client,
correct. I mean,
guest experience.
The best service people in the world are the best salespeople in the world. You don't have a phenomenal real estate agent that pisses everyone off. That doesn't happen. They're liked by their community. They're respected by their community. And people just don't think of hourly employees that way. They don't think of the front desk agent that way. But the front desk agent at a hotel is often the only person in the hotel the guest will speak to.
It's true.
You check in, you check out. You don't really talk to anyone else. So they're critically important. Now, there is a mindset shift. A lot of front desk agents historically, I think it's changing now because of companies like us, but historically they didn't see themselves in a sales position. They thought sales was a bad thing. And we believe that sales is not something you do to your customer, it's something you do for them. You educate them, you give them choices, you let them choose, you would make recommendations. So once a front desk agent changes the way they see themselves, they see how important they are, it can be transformative for their performance. And then when you give them the training and you give them the tools, I mean, it can get incredible. We have front desk agents in our programs around the world that make six figures working at a front desk.
Incredible. For hotels or hoteliers that haven't implemented your systems, this is a complete paradigm shift for the employee mindset.
That's exactly right. You just nailed it.
So now, how do you adapt FPG services to cater to the diverse marketplaces across different continents and, as you mentioned before, in different languages?
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're probably the smallest international company that you'd ever see. We have people that natively speak 39 languages in our company,
Wow.
and they're positioned. We have an office in Dubai and an office in Singapore. So we have people that kind of live in all of these various places, and that was a requirement pre-COVID when we were going on site and visiting. And now with the technology, we can translate our videos into any language, and it doesn't just translate them; it actually re-renders the speaker's face. I don't know if you've ever seen some of that technology.
I
It's
have
pretty
recently, and
incredible.
they're implementing it in entertainment, in filmmaking and things like that. It's just wow, it's incredible. It's
Yeah,
great because
there's
now it makes
systems
the
that
world a
we
lot
could
smaller.
run. It does, yes. Makes it possible for companies like us to deliver training. But
Exactly.
there's technologies we use that if we took this video of this podcast and ran it through, we could both be speaking Chinese to each other, and it would look like we're speaking Chinese, and it would be our voices speaking
Right.
Chinese.
I
It's
know.
incredible.
It's
It's absolutely game
amazing.
changing.
I
Yeah.
know. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
it is exciting because we can go to places that don't see in hospitality. There's two kinds of places that a hotel would be. Is one where it's an international traveler
Hub,
profile,
right?
and those front desk agents will almost always speak some English.
Mm, right.
But then you have other places like India, for example. A lot of places in India, it's all domestic travel, so they have no need to speak English.
Mm,
So you have to be able to train them in Hindi or in Thai.
right.
So having the ability to translate the videos actually opened up a whole new markets for us just in the last couple of years because we can deliver digital training anywhere in the world in their native language.
Absolutely. So, how do you ensure consistency in service quality across your global operations? And what strategies have you implemented within your systems to maintain that consistency?
Yeah, it all comes down to culture. We are one of the other things that we're very good at is employee engagement and culture building. We actually view ourselves as a tribe, not a team, because we are more like a family on a mission together, which is to bring service and hospitality to a whole new level globally. And for us, because we interact with frontline employees, sometimes we are exposed to the employees that were fairly vulnerable, and our program has actually helped them in very profound ways. Not just like, oh, I bought a new car. We have stories like we found out that an employee was living in their car. And we brought that to the attention of the employer and made sure that they understood that with our incentive plan, they were able to get an apartment. That's the kind of stuff that drives our internal culture. So quality for us is the relationship with the customer, because that customer, we call them champions. That champion we're working with has an effect on 10, 20, 30 employees. So the 3,000 hotels is really like 100,000 people that are being affected. So that's what motivates us internally to maintain very high quality, and we treat people the way we want to be treated. And in my leadership training, I always tell leaders, you can expect your guests to be treated exactly the way you treat your employees. So if you are thinking you can be authoritative with your employees and they're going to be sweet with your guests, you're mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a saying, the oil drips down from the beard, so it trickles down from the top.
I have never heard that saying. Is that like
Yeah.
where does that come from?
I think it's a biblical reference.
Wow.
Of Christian faiths. I've heard it sort of in my Christian circles, but it makes perfect sense in
Yeah, that does
leadership
make
and
sense.
in business as well. So, what measures did you take to maintain client relationships during times of economic uncertainty?
Yeah, well, when COVID hit in March of 2020, we lost about 90% of our global revenue. And so we proactively reached out to all of our customers and we said, look, we're just going to suspend all of our agreements until at such a time as you guys are good to go. And then we'll just finish out the term on the backside of the pandemic, which they appreciated because they were getting calls from vendors demanding payment. And we were saying, let's just pause. You guys are in just as much hardship as we are. Let's just be kind to each other. And it worked. And that allowed us to stay in touch with them when a lot of companies were like, do not call anyone, do not have contact with them. We were still hearing from our customers quite a bit because we had taken that stance with them. I say it all the time. I've never sued a client, so we don't think of in terms of, it's in the contract, we'll litigate it. It's really a very wise person once told me, and he's in hospitality. He said, make it really easy for me to work with you. Make it easy for me to fire you and do a great job. And that kind of sums it up. Don't be a friction point for your clients. Just be good for them and be the bright spot in their day when they get to talk to you.
Yeah, well, in your business, it's about relationships and cultivating the relationships. So I'm sure you have the right idea when it comes to maintaining healthy and successful relationships in good or bad times.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's important. So how do you yourself stay resilient and motivated as you are going through the ebbs and flows of your own business?
Yeah, I've never really had a hard time staying motivated personally. I think it's because I'm so curious, that there's always something to learn. And if we're in a period in our business, where it's slow or, we're kind of coasting along, we'll go invent something new, for the business. We'll bring some innovation to the forefront. And we're all like, when machine learning first hit the scene, we all studied it. We wanted to know, as soon as the large language models were available, we started using them. So for me, it's curiosity and learning, and I read a lot. And I usually have 3 or 4 different books going on different topics, and I go between them as I get bored. But yeah, I'm just fascinated with the whole journey and the idea that, we're helping hundreds of thousands of people, and we're helping thousands of businesses and growing rapidly. It's exciting. It's for me, it's not hard to stay motivated. But I'm also not a worrywart, so I don't get stressed out.
Yeah.
I like being analytical about it, but it's just a fun ride. Building a business there's nothing better.
I agree. It's the best journey ever. And beyond just helping people, you're also creating life experiences, and it's those memories we take with us into eternity. That's the one thing we do take with us is our memories. So what are your goals for FPG in the next 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, we're growing. We want to continue to grow. We want to get to 3 or 4 times our size is our kind of midterm objective. We're also fairly new into the restaurant scene, so a big part of our growth over the next few years will be in restaurants. Because you can imagine in a hotel, there's a restaurant. So we have thousands of hotels that have thousands of restaurants. So, and it applies perfectly, how the server interacts with the guest at the table or across the bar. It's the same dynamics as across the counter at the front desk or at a ticket booth. So we'll be focused a lot on that. And we actually do have some AI driven products that I can't talk about, but they're probably a year away from being commercialized, and we're really excited about that potential and bringing that also into a lot of our relationships to help our customers. So it's really focused on growth and innovation at this point, but being significantly larger would be my objective in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Well, from your mouth to God's ears, amen.
Yes.
And you're right. The restaurants is like a sub niche, but then it's its own universe in itself. Even separate from the hospitality industry. I mean, your growth potential is really limitless in terms of who you can target.
That's right. And we intentionally went for the food and beverage in hotels because there is a connective tissue to the outside industry, and the outside restaurant industry is 10 times the size of the hospitality industry. And hospitality is a pretty big industry, but just as far as the number of clients that you can interact with in restaurants is vastly greater than hotels. So yeah, we see it as a place we can add a lot of value to the hotel companies and help them make more money in the restaurant operations, but it also allows us to start to get to know the food and beverage industry, because a lot of owners and managers, again, they cross over. They own some independents, they own some in hotels. We think it's a really interesting path into a new industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you envision the evolution of incremental revenue strategies in restaurants or hospitality?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back down to the interaction with the people. And so innovation for us is more about understanding and consistency. So if you own a restaurant and your servers are taking the order, they're doing a disservice to the guest that's eating there, and they're doing a disservice to the chef who's invented these meals that are wonderful. And it's things like paying attention to the table as you walk through the dining room, rather than walking by without looking, so that the person whose wine glass is empty is getting frustrated. You know, it's viewing yourself as being in service and in sales, as a server. And what's interesting about at least in the United States, the servers make tips. So there's a natural income benefit to just being nicer.
Being a better server.
Being a better server, exactly.
Yeah.
You can make more money. But from an innovation standpoint, I do think that at some point, AI will or robots will come into play in some way, because you can imagine an AI that is as good at speaking as a human is, and is trained properly, will offer 100% of the time. Whereas, someone at a front desk or at a server at a table, they might be having a bad day and they don't feel like offering anything, so they don't.
Right.
So
like their mood impacts their performance. Whereas it's such a subtle difference. Whereas you could, what would you like? What would you like? As opposed to just, I'd really recommend the salmon with a side of potatoes. Like, boom. And then that could be the difference between a $20 order or a $45 order. So it's like these minor details make a huge difference. Huge
difference. And there's plenty of science on this. We didn't invent it all, but the social proof thing, you could say, what most people enjoy or what many people enjoy is potatoes with their salmon.
Right.
And that alone can drive people to buy it. And then when they eat it and it tastes good, they're happy they bought it.
Yeah.
As long as you keep your promises and you're recommending something that you're going to enjoy, because this can be an evil superpower too. Once you master these skills, you can overdo it and get greedy, and then it has an adverse effect. So that's part of our role as well, is keeping the balance of the appropriate amount of selling. Like if you recommend something to someone and they say no, don't reoffer it to them. Don't try to convince them to buy it. Just move on, and there's enough
there is
opportunity.
Such a thing as overselling. And I agree with you too. It's like integrity is vital. One of my things is always dirty money never lasts. So no matter what you're doing, so maintaining that level of integrity and respect for the people you're serving is also key to success.
Vital. Yes. Agreed completely on that one. It's your reputation again. If you have a relationship with your guest, and you get good results, which means you serve them well and they enjoy it, then your reputation is going to be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. So what emerging markets or sectors are you considering for FPG's expansion? Like what's on the horizon for your targets?
Yeah, so the food and beverage is a big one. And then what crosses over very naturally from food and beverage, because of the systems they use, is retail. So we've done some work in retail pre-COVID, but we haven't done it in our current model. But they use the same point of sale systems in a lot of places that restaurants use. I mean, the technology companies are the same. So getting access to the data would make natural sense. And again, there's a lot of retail in hotels. So we could start retail in hotels, get it figured out, and then be able to take it out to the wider retail universe. So retail is definitely in our mind. There's also other services, even healthcare. If you think about your dermatologist's office, they have a lot to sell, but they're often not very good at it. Or veterinary offices, there's a lot there, but they don't know how to train their people to engage the customer or the patient so that they'll buy it. Right. So we think that those also are natural crossovers from retail. So we do sort of have an industry map.
Yeah.
But it's really food and beverage gets nailed first, then we're probably going to go after retail.
Wow, you've got a lot of growing to do.
Yes, we can grow and grow and grow.
That's the best. I call it the never-ending to-do list.
That is definitely
I love it.
True.
Like for me, I'm like, retirement? What? No way. Like even to my last day on earth, I want to be contributing and building and growing. And I take my vacations. Don't get me wrong. There's time for that. But contributing to the world and being of service is, that's why we're here. That's what fuels our purpose.
My retirement will be helping my sons build a business.
There we go.
I won't have to do the labor anymore, but I can help them get it off the ground.
Oh, I love it. So, what legacy do you hope to leave in the hospitality and business sectors with what you're currently building?
Oh yeah, I love being a trusted advisor to these companies. And I think our legacy will be that we transformed the way that the front lines operate in hospitality. And actually, our founder came from car rental. And he basically did transform the way that car rental companies work. There's just only like 8 car rental companies in the world anymore. So there's no growth there.
Mm,
But we want to leave the same legacy. We want the industry to recognize that the way that the front line engages the guests was influenced by FPG.
yeah.
And the profitability of the hotel, because they can make a lot more profit. Those last dollars are the most profitable dollars, and can really be transformational to a P&L.
That's right. So if you are a hotelier or an aspiring hotel owner or restaurant owner, and as he mentioned, a retail business owner, then you want the FPG signature in your customer experience. So
Hmm.
how can they reach you, Jeff? How can
Yeah,
they start working with you and become a part of the
absolutely.
program?
So our website is frontlinepg.com. So P like Performance Group. They can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there a lot. But yeah, the website has a contact page. They could go and, just reach out. Would love to hear from anyone that owns a business with a front line and would like to improve service and revenue,
I
because
love it.
that's what we do.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we'll certainly, link that in the caption, but also, we're featuring you as a business leader in the magazine, so they can, find your contact information and connect with you there as well. So any final note or last thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners before and our readers before we wrap up?
Yeah, just, be kind to each other. It's the best path to success is building relationships through trust and kindness. And we would love to hear from you. And we really appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's been a lot of fun. Great conversation. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad. It's been an honor to get to know you and to learn more about what you're doing. You're making such an incredible impact in the world and in uh, the human experience. I commend you for it, and I wish you endless success, truly.
Thank you.
And
Same to
there's a
you.
quote, thank you, I receive it. There's a quote that I always like to say, so, there can be no ego in true success because it is always about service to others. And
That's
that's what you're doing. Yeah,
that's
I love
exactly
it.
right.
All
Yes.
right, well,
Thank you so much.
it's been a pleasure. God bless you, and I look forward to having you on the show in the future, and we'll
I
catch
would
up
love
on your
to.
future growth. All right,
Thank you
Jeffrey.
so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.